But ultimately, it was a health scare that triggered me to make the biggest decision of my life. And I hope that people don't have to wait for that big trigger to really make those decisions as to where they want to be.
Welcome to the Midlife Reinvention podcast. I'm your host, Kavita, and the founder of Power Purpose Play, a global community of women in midlife. I'm here to tell you that it's your time now to rediscover what has always been inside of you and bring that out into the world. If you're wondering what's next, but don't know quite what that is, or if you feel a twinge in your heart telling you that you have so much more to do and so much more to offer, you're in the right place. Ask yourself, if not now, when? Do you want to leave your job, start your own business, take control of your health, reignite the passion in your marriage, write that book, or at least that first chapter? Transitions like this can be daunting, but through listening to my story and interviews with incredible women every week, I hope to inspire you to take action. I rediscovered myself after the age of 50, and I know you can too. It's my time now to help you do just that. I'm so excited you're here. Let's dive in. Welcome everyone to another episode of the Midlife Reinvention podcast. I'm your host, Kavita, and the founder of Power Purpose Play. And we are a global community of women in midlife. And our mission is to empower women like you to realize that you have the power within you to rediscover your purpose and live a life of play, regardless of your age or circumstances. Every week, I interview incredible women whose stories will serve as an inspiration to you to take that little twinge in your heart and take the next step at reinvention. To that end, I am pleased to have on the show today, Wendy Thomas. Wendy is the founder of Wendy Thomas Coaching, which helps individuals and teams excel in work and life by learning to harness the power of the mindset. An early-stage breast cancer diagnosis gave Wendy the courage and perspective to follow her long-time entrepreneurial dream of establishing her own coaching company. Her authentic and vulnerable coaching style inspires individuals to discover their potential and to achieve greater depths of personal and professional fulfillment. Prior to launching Wendy Thomas Coaching, Wendy spent 18 years in financial services, working at Bloomberg, Thomson Reuters, and FactSet. Most recently, Wendy led FactSet Canada in developing effective strategies for growth, talent acquisition, team building, and operational effectiveness. So thank you so much, Wendy, for being here. I'm really looking forward to our conversation.
Thank you, Kavita. It's an amazing opportunity to speak to you. Thank you for having me as your guest.
Oh, you're welcome. I just, as I said earlier, I love inspirational stories, and yours is definitely one of them. You do have an incredible story of transformation and overcoming adversity, as I mentioned in the introduction. So perhaps you could share with our audience a little bit about what your story and what led you to what you're doing today.
Sure, absolutely. Well, in order to give you a bit of context, I think I'll take you through a little bit about my corporate career and what led me to ultimately take the step to become a coach. So I finished university back in 2000, in the height of the dot-com boom. I really didn't know what I wanted to do out of university. I wanted to do something in business that we think we know what we want to do. Graduated from university, but looking back, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. But as luck would have it, Bloomberg, the financial media company, recruited at my university, and they flew me to New York. I took one look at their food court, an amazing koi fish pond and snacks and great ambience. And I said, sign me up. I definitely want to work for this firm. So they recruited me from Duke. And from there, I moved to New York, where I spent 11 years. And little did I know that my love for food and snacks was going to lead me down an almost 20-year career in financial services. I met my now husband, who officially made me Wendy Thomas. Everyone said growing up that I looked like the Wendy Hamburgers girl. And I officially became the Wendy Hamburgers girl when I married my husband. So as a Wendy Thomas, I moved to Canada because that's where he's from. And he spoke so highly of this incredible country. And we moved to Toronto 10 years ago. At that point, I left Bloomberg. And when I got to Toronto, I was recruited by their biggest competitor, Thomson Reuters. I was there for 10 years, managing some of their biggest financial institutions. And I loved that. I loved my career there. But 4 years into my career there, I was recruited by another competitor to Bloomberg and Thomson Reuters, FactSet. Yes. And I was recruited to run their Canadian office. So I was actually at FactSet for 3 years and I loved my career there. I felt like I was firing on all cylinders. I had executive sponsorship. I loved what I did. I truly love growing an office and inspiring people to be their best selves and grow revenue on the front lines. And I always say, how do you marry a professional high with an all-time personal low? Because I felt that I was really flying on a professional level. But 2 days before my 40th birthday, I followed a gut intuition that something wasn't right in my body. I'm going to be real and I'm going to be vulnerable when I tell my story because I really want to connect with my authenticity here. Yes. But I felt a buzzer that went off in my right-hand breast. And as strange as it is to describe, I knew that I had to follow up on what I was feeling. So I contacted my doctor, who, interesting enough, sent me for a mammogram. Here in Canada, you don't actually get mammograms until you're 50. Here I was 2 days before my official milestone birthday of 40 on Friday, January 26, 2018, on an otherwise very uneventful cold winter's morning. I sat in front of a radiologist who came out and said to me, I think you have an angel that's looking out for you because you came in here for your right-hand side, but truth be told, there's absolutely nothing there. We think we've just found breast cancer on your left-hand side.
Oh my goodness.
And I was like, what? My whole world, Kavita, just completely crumbled. Everything that was relevant the day before, every deadline, every pipeline meeting, whatever it was, just completely fell away. And all I could think about was, how am I going to be on this earth for as long as I possibly can? Because I'm a mom of 2 young boys and I need to put my health first. I really need to get through this and get to the other side. So needless to say, the days, the weeks, the months were excruciating. I didn't know where the cancer was. Many doctor's appointments later and 3 surgeries down the line, I was cancer-free, thank goodness. And the whole experience just was a massive awakening to me because it made me realize the importance of every day and how we spend our time mostly worrying about silly things. And the most important thing in life is your health. And that saying, health is wealth, is everything. Yes. And I literally felt like I had been plucked out of my life. Similar to when the pandemic first started, we felt like we'd been plucked out of our life and we were just completely overcome in fear as to like, what is happening around us? Like, what can I do to change the situation? I felt that I'd been plucked out of my life and this was all just so unfamiliar to me. I was just completely riddled with fear. But at the same time, my late father, who I believe sent me that intuition, had always said, with adversity comes opportunity. And I kept on hearing his voice as I was going through this process. And I thought, what is the opportunity here? And then towards the end of my cancer journey, I started to reevaluate my career. And I thought, what I'd been good at in my corporate career. And it was my ability to really connect to people and inspire people to really be their best self on the front lines. And I thought, well, what if I could actually start my own business? I've always wanted to start my own coaching business. And I thought, well, nothing could ever be as scary as what I've been through this year. And with that, I put pedal to the metal and I made a decision, which is everything in life, just about being able to make that big decision. And I aligned myself with one of the leaders in the mindset coaching business. And I became certified to teach content related to the power of a positive mindset, because by having a positive mindset and thinking about goals and thinking about where you want to be, as opposed to letting fear and anxiety and the what if rule your life, it's really important to think ahead and understand like what your bigger plan is in life. So I left FactSet at the end of 2018, which was really hard for me because I loved what I did. And I launched my business in 2019. And I absolutely love what I do. I'm incredibly passionate about connecting with people and really helping them realize their full potential by believing in themselves, because so often we hold ourselves back. Like we really don't believe in ourselves. Like we listen to everybody around us. We let paradigms from our childhood hold us back. And if you don't believe in yourself, like if you don't have goals, then it's going to be really hard to get to where you want to go. So that's a bit of a long story in terms of how I got to where I am right now. But ultimately, it was a health scare that triggered me to make the biggest decision of my life. And I hope that people don't have to wait for that big trigger to really make those decisions as to where they want to be.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I don't even know where to start. That is, firstly, thank you for sharing that. That was just an incredible story. It is an incredible story. And the fact that you had the courage, I mean, I can't imagine, gave me goosebumps when you talk about it. And the fact that you had that angel that came your way and you decided to go to the doctor at that moment. I don't believe in coincidences, so there's something there. So as you said, perhaps it was your late father, who knows, right? And thank goodness you did. So you did go and you're better now. Are you cancer free now?
Yes, I am.
Oh, that's wonderful.
But something that always lives with me. I get mammograms and MRIs every 6 months, and that fear comes back when I go through that process of just like, what if it does come back? Like you're always sort of worried about it in the back of your mind, but yes, for now, I am cancer-free. Thank goodness.
That's wonderful. Yes. And, there's so much to unpack there because you talk a lot about the strength that you had to face the adversity that you did face. And that's what we talk about a lot here for the women who are listening, where people are listening, is how can you, I can't imagine, how can you possibly have the strength and the courage to face what you did? And what would you suggest or what would you recommend for women to develop that courage that you had to face? And I know you said you don't want people to wait until that moment, right? So sometimes what we do is, as you said, is we have these ideas that we want to do something in our life or change something because we're not happy, but then we're afraid. And so we're afraid to take that next step. So tell us from your experience, any advice you have.
So I think the thing to realize is that you need to focus on like the future and not the now. Like it's really important to have a goal and to tap into what we as adults don't necessarily use a lot of the time, is to really tap into your imagination and to start to really think like, what are my strengths? Like, where do I want to be? What do I envision for myself in the next 3 months, 6 months, year? Like, what is my direction here? Because so often, especially in the corporate world, you're literally on a hamster wheel. You're just going. And it's like driving a car without a destination, without a GPS. Like you need to understand, like, what is your ultimate like goal? Like short term, long term, where do you want to be? And what are your strengths as well? Like, I think that outside of like applying for jobs or big decisions that you make when you're leaving university, you understand like your strengths. But if you've been in a job for like a long time, like you don't necessarily study yourself and believe what you're really good at. You look around you and you think, well, everyone can do what I'm doing because I'm in a big firm, but everyone has their own secret sauce. Everyone is so unique, and it's the uniqueness of every individual that basically makes the world go round. So I think my advice is to really think about like bigger picture, use your imagination, be creative about where you want to go, and take a bit of a step back, because it's very consuming to become consumed with what everybody else wants for you. And I often say, who's driving your bus? Like, are you driving your bus, or are you letting other people drive your bus? With technology these days, it's very easy to let other people drive your bus, because we look at our phones typically 150 times a day. From the moment we wake up, instead of looking at our phone as an alarm clock, we suddenly look at calendars, we look at emails, we look at social media, we play in that game of comparison. But when did you actually sort of study you and think about you and really be grateful for what you have? It's always more, what others want, this game of comparison. So bit of a long-winded answer there. I think it's taking stock of what you have. So writing out what you're grateful for, understanding what you're good at, like really taking the time to study yourself, giving yourselves moments to pause. So whether that's meditation, whether that's yoga, whether that's just taking some time out for yourself to exercise every morning before you become consumed with what other people want for you. Because as I said, like, you can just keep on going. And when you're going for so long, you start to lose track of who you are and what you're really good at. And everyone's amazing in their own right. Everyone has their own intrinsic value.
Yes. You're just speaking to my heart, because and this is really the whole entire reason I've started Power Purpose Play. And it's for women to realize, I'm running a course right now. It's called It's My Time Now. And it's exactly what you kind of said, is that it's really our time now to figure out what is it we have to offer the world. And by that, by what you just said is looking at your strengths, looking at what your values, how have your values changed? What have you done in the past that maybe you can, what are the strengths that you've had in the past, or the achievements you have, the accomplishments, celebrate them and be proud of them, right? And take those things that you value and you love to do, and you can do them in a different way if you want to, and just have the courage in yourself. And like you said, I love that too, is the self-care part, is really taking time and not always worrying about what other people think. What are people going to say?
Like that holds us back all the time.
Yes,
it really does. And what held me back before I left was, how will I introduce myself at the proverbial cocktail party? I was Wendy Thomas. I had this job. I was associated with this bigger firm. And you suddenly leave that and you think that that's your identity. Mm-hmm. Your corporation like holds your identity. But then you leave and you're like, well, through this study that I've done of myself, I'm like, no, like I am Wendy. Yes, I had a maiden name before I became Wendy Thomas, but that's me to my core. And it's about believing in yourself and really looking under the hood of your own car and understanding what makes you tick, because we don't do that. We really don't. We are just driving our bus, like continuously, like going, looking for the next promotion, getting recruited to move to another firm, go. And then suddenly you hit retirement or something. And then you're like, well, hold on. What do I do? Like, who am I good at? Like, you need to find things that make you happy, like every single day. And it's the small things, right? It's the small things about writing out what you're grateful for, appreciating like morning runs. As you said, you have a puppy, you're probably way more present now with the puppy. It's just enjoying the everyday, because if you're looking forward to the next thing, the next material possession or the next promotion or whatnot, you'll get there, but you'll realize that it's so fleeting, that feeling of satisfaction. Like you have to find happiness every single day. And it's the small things that really make the world go round. Like the small things that are so big, like your health, that is everything. I mean, when I was sitting in that cancer hospital, I looked around and I'm like, oh, this is so sad. I'm like, all I want is my health. Like I'd see people on the street and just be jealous of them having a normal life and not having this like bigger burden hanging over their shoulders. But if you don't have that, you don't realize it. You just, again, comparing yourself to other people and thinking that you're not good enough and looking for the next job and looking for the next promotion and boom, 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 until suddenly things stop.
Yes, that's so true. That's so true. Especially when you were talking about, let's say, a corporate career. Maybe we've been in a career our whole lives and we're comfortable in that career, or we have the roles as mothers or daughters, and we get comfortable in those roles that we play. And then when things change, let's say the kids leave the house, or we have a health scare, or things like that, then we're jarred, and then we're afraid of how are we going to get over this, or what are we going to do next, because we're so used to being in those roles. So other than fear, what other obstacles do we face, and how can we get over those obstacles? I mean, there's the inner obstacles, there's outer obstacles, but I think a lot of it is the inner critic telling us that we're not good enough.
Yes.
Those kind of, and they're all in our head. I think a lot of these obstacles that we put before us are things that we make up in our head, and they're usually about a future event. So like you said,
you're using imagination against you. You're not using your imagination, which is a higher mental faculty that is innate to human beings. You're using it to fear the worst case situation. And that fear becomes like anxiety written in your body. But by the same token, you could use imagination to really dream of what is possible. But we just don't do that. We're always in our own heads. It's this continual tape that's playing. And there's so many different amazing personal development books out there. But I think a common theme is affirmations and writing things down, and this stream of consciousness about believing in yourself. Because if you don't believe in yourself, how are other people supposed to believe in you, really? There's an amazing app out there. It's called Think Up, and it allows you to record 3 affirmations. And then it puts lovely meditation music around those affirmations, and you listen to it. You can listen to it as many times as you want a day. So it's basically like thinking about your life in the future, but your subconscious mind has no ability to reject anything. It just assumes everything is real. So if you really get into this app, you can start to listen to it, boom, boom, boom. And then you actually start to believe it. But that's the key thing, is thinking about your life in the future and what the potential is for you, and not listening to other people, which hold you back, and not listening to a past inner critic
Yes.
that lives deep down inside your subconscious mind, because that's really what it is. It's paradigms.
Yes.
It's ghosts that are living in your subconscious mind that could be carried forth from like your childhood.
Mm-hmm.
You could be told at a very young age, you're this person, and then you're so susceptible to believing everything that you start to believe that, and you carry it through into adult life. But then you look around and you're like, hold on a second, I'm in my 40s. Why am I believing this? Like,
Yes.
if I don't give something a try now, it's never going to happen, because we really only have one chance to live life.
Right. Yeah, I talk a lot about, and this was a concept put forth by Tara Moore called the inner mentor. And that is yourself, rather than having an outer mentor that we sometimes have, having an inner mentor, which is you like 20 years from now. Envision yourself 20 years from now, or however many years you want from now. And that's kind of your guiding light. And if you envision yourself as your mentor, then it's a positive thing, right?
I love that.
Yeah, it's a really, and we did a visualization of that. And it was just very, very powerful to think of that, of yourself. How do you want to see yourself in this 20 years, 30 years, or however amount of time?
Yeah, that's really powerful. I love that word.
Yeah. You also talk a little bit about, I think in your work, about natural positivity and the power of the mind. And we just discussed that a little bit, but is there some concepts there, and especially around natural positivity, that you could discuss, or that you?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I found that I was always positive before I actually became certified to teach this mindset coaching work. And I just always acted like in the present, always positive. And I loved the ability to influence people with my positive energy. But through studying this work and through becoming certified to actually teach this, I realized how important it is to be able to transfer positive energy, right? Because people feed off energy. And when you're positive, you start to notice the impact that you have around people. And it plays such a big difference in so many people's lives. I mean, the concept of mindset work is, the term mindset is thrown around really loosely these days. And I didn't fully understand like the importance of mindset, especially in the corporate world. But mindset is really the ability to take control of simple things with your own mind. It's basically being staying present and not listening to your inner critic, to outside voices, and using the power that we have of our own minds, such as our higher mental faculties. I mentioned one of them being imagination, but another one is intuition. Birds use their intuition to navigate all the way to Mexico in the winter, but we as humans just look to others. That's true. Yeah, we could just get on a plane. Well, back when like planes actually ran. But we as humans rather listen to other people than use our intuition. But at the same time, I was thankful that I listened to my intuition when I did. And that was a crucial point in my life that actually enabled me to find breast cancer when I did. But so often we ignore our intuition, right? And we just listen to people around us. So I think that's really the importance of mindset work, and to know that the subconscious mind has no ability to reject anything. It just takes everything in as face value. So it's really important to think positive thoughts. And as hard as that is, you have to consciously be aware of what's entering your mind at any given point in the day, because so often you can find yourself in a complete funk, right? And you realize like, hold on a second, like what actually happened here? What am I emotionally invested with? And then you realize, oh, hold on, it was something that somebody said to me earlier on in the day, or it was an email, or I'm thinking about like the what if fear-based situation, and it impacts how you actually feel. But if you were aware of how your subconscious mind actually acts and the impact that it has on your body, you would be able to like flip that and say, hold on a second, let's just park that. Let's think about a thought that is going to positively impact me for the day. Because what I'm doing right now is I'm using my imagination against me. But what if I use my imagination for me and thought about like a bigger goal, or what I can do today to help me get to where I want to go in the next year or 5 years? Again, it's having that like bigger purpose.
Yes.
And yeah, the mindset work sorry, it's a bit of a long-winded answer in terms of
go ahead.
Positivity. It's about being able to recognize what mood you're in that particular moment, and being able to flip to the positive, even though there could be like a lot of negative happening around you. It's choosing the positive thoughts. I mean, it's through the pandemic, right? Like when we first started the pandemic, like it was incredibly scary, right?
Yeah.
Everything was on the TV. It was just bad news all around us. And it was very easy to become like crippled in fear But by using the power of mindset, you could actually take a step back and say, well, hold on a second. I'm letting all of this information infiltrate my subconscious mind, and it's actually impacting my productivity here. I need to step back and only take away the facts and not get emotionally invested with it, and know that this stage has to pass. Like the pandemic, we don't know how long it's going to be, but at some point we will get out of it. And what am I going to do right now that's in my control? And I always defaulted to gratitudes, because gratitudes take you back to that present moment. And there is so much to be grateful for. I mean, it's like a simple, cup of coffee, cup of tea, a run in the morning, like the simple things. And I think the pandemic really showed us that we had to really get back to the basics.
I can feel the energy of your positivity. I can feel it. I really do, even through this screen here. But I really think what you said is so important about, in the moment, you have a choice, right? Every moment there's a choice to think in one way or the other. And I'm learning that more and more, is you can choose to react in every moment in one way, in a negative way or a positive way. And I really believe in the whole energy, what the energy that we emit, and then it comes back to you. And then I was just thought of something as you were talking about the pandemic, and maybe as a result, as working with clients in the last year, have you noticed that people are starting to look inwards more? They're starting to question, what is my true calling? Do I want to go back to what I was doing? And how do I find what is my true calling now that there's been so much upheaval, I guess, in the last year? So have you noticed that the people are?
Yes, actually, I feel like it's a common trend. I think people are realizing that they can no longer look to outside circumstances to plan and drive their happiness. And when the world just stopped, people are like, wow, hold on a second. Like, I've got a bit of time here to sort of look inward and understand, like, who am I? Like, do I really love my job? Do I love my company? Do I love what my company stands for? Am I aligned with their vision? Are my values aligned with their vision? Because life is short. I think that that's what the pandemic has taught us. And when the pandemic started, I'm like, oh, I feel like I've been here before. I really felt like I'd been in that feeling. And then I realized that it was actually very similar to when I was diagnosed with breast cancer. It made me realize, like, hold on a second. I felt like I was just plucked from my life. Yes. And it was scary, and I didn't know when it was going to end, but I had to focus on myself and just getting through, like, every single day. And when you do that, you're able to look inward instead of outward, which I think is a huge win from the pandemic, because it's allowed people to really study themselves and understand, like, how do they want to spend the rest of their life? Like, if they're not happy in a job, then many people have actually left their jobs and found other jobs. They've realized that there's a bigger purpose, and there's a lot more flexibility out there too. Like, it's very interesting.
It is. I've found that in the last year, since I've actually started the business as well, is that there's kind of been three waves, right? There's a wave of the pandemic and what we just talked about, people looking inwards more. And with regards to women, and women especially in midlife, and women's empowerment is becoming more and more, there's more awareness of it. Let's put it that way. I don't know if you find that with your clients, if you predominantly have women as clients, but there's a whole women's empowerment that's a movement that is really becoming more prominent. And then the third thing is a concept called ageism, is that people it doesn't really matter how old you are, you still have so much ahead of you. So all those three things, especially in the area that I'm focused in, has really kind of happened all at once. So I don't know if you've noticed in terms of women and midlife, and have you seen that there is more and more women like contemplating what's their next steps, and that they have more to offer?
Yeah. Well, I think in particular, I mean, the pandemic's been so hard on women, right? Like, women have taken the lion's share of childhood responsibilities. And I know many women who've just had to step out of their corporate career and pause to take care of the kids, because depending on how old your kids are, like, it's just not sustainable to have two really big corporate jobs and be the mom and teacher that you really want to be. And that's been really hard. And I think what's also hard about women is that many people, women in particular, have been at a company for so long. And when you're at a company for so long, it's great. But at the same time, like, you don't realize your value and you're scared to leave. And I think this pandemic's also brought about that time for people to, like, study themselves and think, like, hold on a second, like, is this where I want to be, like, for the rest of my life? Like,
Yeah.
hold on a second, like, can I actually leave? Because I think they've been crippled by staying in a place for so long.
Right, right. Exactly. You mentioned earlier that you always wanted to start your own business, and you knew right away that you always wanted to be an entrepreneur. What about with people who don't know what their calling is, or who don't really know what they want to do, even though they've been maybe have been in a career for their whole life? Like for me, for example, I was in the pharmaceutical industry for a long time, and like you, it was very satisfying. I really loved it. But there was a point where it was like, I'm not as fulfilled anymore in this. There's certain things about it I loved. I loved helping the patients. I love those aspects, but other aspects of it I just didn't like. And I figured out how to find what I wanted to do next. But how do people really find their thing or their calling?
I think a lot of the work has to come from taking the time to truly study yourself, and to really understand your strengths and your weaknesses and align your values with other companies' values. I mean, some people want to be entrepreneurs, other people want to stay in a company their whole career. But sometimes people find that they've been at a company for too long, or they need a change. And it's about understanding, what industry you want to be part of. Like, are your skills transferable? Like, maybe you can take your skills and move them to like another industry. It doesn't have to be a drastic change in terms of completely leaving a company and being an entrepreneur. I think it's just about creating those options out there for yourself. But so much of it comes with stepping back and realizing that it's a long run, right? And there's big runway, and setting big goals is huge. And they don't have to be specific. They can change over time. But I think it's the same thing about who's driving your bus. Like, have you always just been running on a hamster wheel and doing everything that your boss wants you to do, and then accepting other jobs because you've been recruited? Like, have you actually taken the time to think, hold on, what industry do I want to be part of? Because the skills that I have right now could be transferred into like another industry. And that's often what it takes, is just a transfer of a different industry or a different job.
Yeah.
And again, it has to come from within, and we just don't give ourselves that time to study ourselves. That's typically what I've been seeing.
Yes. That's wonderful. And I exactly agree with you. And I looked at what I was good at and what I wanted to do and the values my changing values. And I was like, I'm not done yet. There's a lot more. There's a lot more for me to do. And
totally. And I'm sure it took a lot of time for you to come up to where you are now. Like, it wasn't an overnight decision. Like, you really had to study yourself.
Well, it took probably 3 years before I actually left. But then once I actually did leave and started it just one action, you take the first step and then it just rolls. It's just like a. Hi, my friend. Kavita here. Do you often feel blocked from moving forward? We all feel that way at times. These are referred to as energy blocks. I've created a short, actionable PDF guide to help you release your negative energy blocks. Click the link in the description to download it now for free. Now, let's get back to the episode.
Exactly. And you can't have like perfection hold you back. You just got to keep going, right?
You have to be confident, and you have to not worry about putting things out that are messy, and you have to, it can't be perfect. So that's another thing. I think a lot of women are, I have to do this first before I do this, and it has to be perfect, or I won't do it, or I have to get another certification, or I have to get another degree, or.
Exactly. And I think that women in particular, they let the how hold them back. But you really have to have that vision that drives you. That vision should drive you every single day, not how am I going to get from like down here to up there. It will happen along the way. You just don't know about the resources that will present themselves.
Things will work out
halfway through. Things will work out. You'll meet people. Opportunities will open. But for example, 3 years ago, you didn't know that you'd meet me. I didn't know that I was going to meet you, but we met each other.
Yeah, I had no idea. If you told me 3 years ago that I'd have a podcast and had launched 20 episodes already, I'd be like, right.
Yeah, exactly. But at the same token, that could have held you back, because you could have said, I'm going to launch a podcast and I don't know how I'm going to do it. I'm going to think of all the technology that I'll use. If people will be my guests, it's just going to be too hard.
Yes.
I'll stay here. Yeah. But that's what it is. It's the how. And I think people get really overwhelmed with not having goals and visions, but it just takes those incremental steps of really studying yourself and knowing what you're really good at.
Mm-hmm. Well, we put ourselves in our boxes, right? And then we don't want to get out. We're afraid to get outside of the comfort zone. But previous guests had said there's a comfort zone, there's a growth zone, and then there's a panic zone. And you want to get from your comfort zone into your growth zone and try not to get in panic mode.
Yeah.
But the only way to grow is to get out of your comfort zone, right? So
exactly. And that is a great thing when you're living on the edge and you're doing things that you feel completely not comfortable with. That is a massive sign of growth, because when you've done it a couple of times, it just becomes a lot easier. But I think that's what women struggle with as well, is that they're scared to leave a company. They've been there for so long. They're valued. They're a known entity, but they're not challenged. They're not living on the edge every single day. They're not growing. And I think that's where you meet a lot of stagnancy. They're scared to take the risk because they don't think that maybe they'll get paid the same amount of money at another firm or whatnot. But that's just about them not believing in themselves.
Yeah.
And that's the type of work that I do, is that I make people look under the hood of their car and really figure out what makes them tick and believe in themselves, and to know that everybody has a secret sauce, and it's how you position yourself.
It's wonderful work you're doing. That's amazing.
Oh, thanks. I love what I do. I'm so thrilled with what I do every single day. I wake up with this newfound energy, just being able to help others really believe in themselves.
So tell us what things you're doing now, if any programs or anything that people can look you up, and if there's any interest in looking at your work, and where we can find you, and what are you doing right now in terms of?
Oh, thanks, Kavita. So I run a 6-month coaching program where I actually take my clients through a very structured mindset coaching program. It's by an organization called the Proctor Gallagher Institute. So Bob Proctor is a leader in the mindset coaching business. He's been doing this for
very familiar with
over 60 years. Yeah, he's been doing it for over 60 years. And I wanted to align myself with somebody who was a known entity and somebody who had proven results from so many different people around the world. And I was a student in his program, and it gave me the courage and confidence to basically start my own business, because I'd never studied myself the way that this program really allows you to dig deep. And it's a 6-month program where I take people through the content twice. I have amazing, like-minded individuals joining me from the corporate world, men and women, but it's people that are looking for more. They're looking to make a change professionally, personally, and they just feel really stuck. And this program really pushes you to do the work on yourself. It's work that you've probably never done before, but we meet once a week where I hold everybody accountable on a Zoom call, and I hold you accountable as a coach at the same time. And it's the energy that you get from the others in the group that sort of empower you to take the next incremental step. So I run my program 3 times a year, actually. I take people in January, May, and September. So my next group starts at the end of September. So if anyone's looking to learn more about what I do, feel free to reach out. My website is wendythomascoaching.com. Pretty easy to remember.
That's wonderful. We'll have all the show notes. In the show notes, we'll have all your links, so people can take a look and reach out to you if they have any questions.
That sounds great. Another thing I wanted to add is what I do is, through the pandemic, I've had a bunch of corporations reach out about how to bring mindfulness into the workplace through just an hour-long session. So I've actually been able to do a 1-hour mindset workshop on managing your mindset in a time of uncertainty, which actually I've done a bunch of times at Google. I just finished my 6th engagement at Google yesterday, which was really exciting.
That's great.
It's another part of my business that I love to do.
Okay. Wow. Are those available to listen to, or are they?
They're specific for the corporation. Okay. So I don't actually share those.
Yes. Okay. Well, that sounds great. That's wonderful. So thank you so much for all your insights and for sharing your incredible story. And I think our listeners will be very motivated to hear the challenges you went through and how you've come on the other side. And is there any other last words you have, or anything you'd like to say?
No, just I'm so honored to be your guest, and it was so lovely having such a wonderful conversation with you. And it's incredible what you're doing. So many women are lucky to have you. It's amazing.
Thank you. I love these conversations, because it just feels like we're talking to friends. So
yeah, exactly. I'm just looking at the time and I'm like, oh my goodness, how can it already be 45 minutes? This is crazy. It went by really quickly.
I really enjoyed it, and thank you so much. And we will definitely keep in touch and let us know what you're up to. And we'll possibly have you over again.
Thank you, Kavita. I appreciate it.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye. I'm sure you'll agree that Wendy's story of surviving an early-stage breast cancer diagnosis is so inspirational. Her courage, perspective on the power of a positive mindset, and her authentic and eloquent words should make us all pause and reflect on what is really important in our lives. Here are her key takeaways. Number 1, with adversity comes opportunity. 2, have a positive mindset and think about goals and where you want to be as opposed to letting fear and anxiety rule your life. 3, if you don't believe in yourself and have goals, it's going to be really hard to get to where you want to go. You need to focus on the future and really tap into your imagination. 4, think, what are your strengths? What is under the hood of your car? What do you envision for yourself? What is your direction here? Because so often we are on a hamster wheel of life. 5, everyone has their own secret sauce. Everyone is unique. It's the uniqueness of every individual that makes the world go round. 6, who's driving your bus? Are you driving your bus, or are you letting other people drive your bus? 7, take stock of what you have, what you're grateful for, and understand what you're good at. Give yourself moments to pause. Take some time out there for yourself, whether that's yoga, meditation, affirmations, before you become consumed with what other people want for you. 8, if we don't give something a try now, it's never going to happen because we really only have one chance to live life. 9, when you're living on the edge, when you're doing things you're not completely comfortable with, that is a massive sign of growth. When you've done it a couple of times, it becomes a lot easier. 10, when you're positive, you start to notice the positive impact you have with people around you in so many people's lives. We are so grateful you're here listening to our podcast and learning from our amazing guests. If you enjoy these episodes, please share with your friends. There is no greater compliment. My goal is to help you realize the true potential that lies within you and rediscover yourself to bring that out into the world, regardless of your age or circumstances. We are starting a waiting list for our signature program, It's My Time Now, How to Rediscover Yourself in Midlife. We just completed our first cohort of beautiful women who went through this comprehensive journey of discovery together and have uncovered such potential within themselves that they were not even aware of. We are now taking names for our upcoming program in the fall. Email me at kavita@powerpurposeplay.ca if you'd like further details. I'm also offering free initial coaching consultations as your personal transformation coach, so contact me for a discovery call. I can't wait to see what you bring out into the world with your uniqueness and greatness. Join our free community at powerpurposeplay.ca and join the movement of women in midlife who are saying, it's my time now. All the best. See you next week.